Hello, I'm Zorab and this is Byther Farm. Good morning everybody, how are you doing? You want to come out? There you go. These are some of our chickens and turkeys. This is Big White and his girls, and then there are 4 young turkeys as well. And they've been shut in here because the turkeys keep escaping, and this has been a really good way to contain them so that they can then go through to their housing. But I want to rearrange things. I want to keep the birds in this area and start using all of this as garden. And better than just being garden, I want to continue our food forest in and through this area and around the rest of our plot here. And this is less than 1/4 of an acre. But when we add it to the existing food forest, I think it will be somewhere around 1/3 of an acre of food forest. And so my plan for today is to use one of these metal panels to create some security up here, because up to now this has just been a piece of loose netting which is just fixed on here with baling twine and cable ties. And the turkeys have worked out so that they can get through this, so I need to make it turkey proof, and they have over the last few weeks proved to be absolute experts in escaping. So I'm going to cable tie this panel onto here, pull the green netting over the outside of it and fix that on, and the green netting is there as a biosecurity measure. It pretty much eliminates the chances of small birds being able to fly through the holes in this mesh, and also stops wild bird poop falling into the area. I really wish I'd known about this panelling before we used all the chicken wire. Now it's considerably more expensive than chicken wire is, but it's much more reusable, so in my mind that makes it more environmentally friendly. And I know we can put chicken wire into the recycling stations, but I really don't think it's anywhere near as good as being able to reuse panels over and over again. My aim is just to stop them climbing out of the top here, because because that's a nuisance, and I really don't want them getting into this big area once we've started planting in here, or even once I've started preparing the area for whatever we're going to do with it. I'm really quite unsure whether just to leave it as grass and have a meadow area and let some of the wildflowers grow. I've already planted fruit trees in here, so it's partly orchard. So we could, for example, just have some grazing animals in here, and the other thing that we could do is just to absolutely fill this with food plants that are also decorative. So we could have daylilies, we could plant some hibiscus. There are all sorts of things we could do. And the last thing that's left for me to do is to secure this corner in, so we don't catch ourselves on it as we are moving around. Oh, you know, sometimes I think things are going to be really difficult and they're so simple. There we go, look at that. Easy peasy. This elderberry tree has only been here for about a year. My friend Jane and I lifted a piece, a runner that had come off our big elderberry tree, and transplanted it here. It had 3 or 4 stems coming out of it. Popped it here in the hope that it would develop into a nice tree, and it is, which I'm really pleased about. And we've got masses of fruit on it already. These fruits have matured much later than the ones on the main tree, And I'm assuming that the later maturing of these berries is because this tree, well, it's a shrub or a tree, it will be a tree, is in the shadow of a willow here, so it gets less sun during the day. Or it could be because it was transplanted, it just took longer to settle its roots into the ground. Now this isn't actually so mature yet that we couldn't move it if we wanted to, so if we decide this is the wrong place, I think this winter, once it's become dormant, we could move it if we want to have it in a different area, not quite so close to the willow tree, because if it's anything like the other elderberries on our homestead, this is going to get enormous, and it might be better to put it around the boundary as part of a hedge, or just further over. Up to now I haven't spent very much time out here, except with the chickens, but I haven't spent much time out here just feeling the lie of the land. We've been here for quite a long time now, but I haven't spent as much time as I could just getting a feel for this field. And so once I've contained the birds in that penned area at the back there, I will then take down the fencing and actually just get a feel for how big it is, and the undulations in the ground, where it's higher and where it's lower. And although I'm not 100% sure of my plans here, I do know that in the lower area, the lowest area of this field, I'm going to put a small pond. We have a wildlife pond. It hasn't done very well. It's pretty green and slimy and disgusting actually. So we're going to put a pond in, start afresh, without all the sludge and the yuck that's in the pond. So there'll be a pond in here for wildlife, and near that I know I want to move our very large rhubarb plant to be fairly near the pond, which will provide some shade over the pond, and it will give something for wildlife to hide under the leaves. And at the moment our rhubarb is in quite a high place, so when it gets very dry, that area is drier, whereas if I just bring it down the slope a tiny bit, its roots will be in moister soil. Across the whole width of our homestead, it only drops down about 4.5 feet from the highest point to the lowest point, so we don't have any huge drops. It's just a very, very gentle slope going across, but it makes sense for the rhubarb, which needs quite a lot of moisture to keep those great big leaves looking lush and wonderful, to be somewhere where the ground is naturally a bit more moist, so it's going to be wetter deep down by its roots than up on a drier bit. This is the area I've used to grow potatoes this year. I'm really pleased with how they've done. The soil is really good, it's very fertile, so this will be a great growing space for next year. I've got a lot of weed clearing to do. That's not just annual weeds here, it's an awful lot of pernicious perennial weeds, docks, and really heavy duty thistles, and clover, which is fine, it's absolutely brilliant. It's a nitrogen fixer, but it has absolutely taken over this area, and together with the stinging nettles, it's all becoming a bit of a tangled mess. I do wish that we had this field behind us, but we don't. Our homestead stops at this boundary just here, which I've planted masses of hedging along to provide a variety of nuts and berries for wildlife, and rose hips for us. And I've also planted quite a lot of fruit trees in here. So this is an apple. I can't remember what variety it is, but I can go and have a look in my garden journal where I wrote down each variety and where it went in our homestead. And already we've got fruit on it. It's not looking great actually. It's looking it's looking a bit beaten up by probably some birds, some peck marks in it. This one can go to the chickens because they like them. But it does mean that I can now spend the winter planning what's going to happen in here, what I want to do with the area. I can order some more trees and fruit bushes. I can divide plants that we've already got to go in here. I'm really looking forward to not only designing this space but actually getting on with starting to create it. Well, that's it for me today. I'm heading inside. Time for a cup of tea. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for the day, I hope it's a good one. And I also hope you'll join me again tomorrow.